Good morning. Time this video. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you at. This is now Victory Friday on Franchise Sports TV. So yesterday there was 3 football games, and of course the only one I was really interested in was the first one. Of course, Packers went to Detroit and battled the Detroit Lions. And came up with a dub. This game, it wasn't a frustrating game. Like, not so much like the last week's game against the Vikings. Last week's game against the Vikings, I wasn't too frustrated. I knew they was going to win that game. The Giants game was kind of frustrating, but of course the game against the Eagles and Panthers was frustrating. But this game, I wasn't too frustrated because the Packers set the record straight on the Detroit Lions. They went out there and made, at least for the first quarter, I think maybe it might have been the first half, the first quarter, Jared Goff 0 for 1. They didn't even get a pass off until like the late second quarter. They pretty much held him in check in the beginning. I know there was no Amon-Ra St. Brown, but whatever, he was not a factor. In the first game, in week 1, when these two teams played in Lambeau. But I know who was a factor for the Detroit Lions was Jameson Williams. Yeah. He was burning the Packers corners. He was burning them. I think he had 141 yards of receiving. It was freaking crazy. And 1 touchdown. It was freaking crazy. One thing the Packers will need to do, if they have the chance to do it, is find another corner. Because the one thing I am worried about moving on is one of these wide receivers in the NFC are going to go off on the Packers in the playoffs. Don't know who that's going to be, but I can see it happening. But then again, you never know. Jordan Love played outstanding yesterday. I know there was some drop passes at the beginning of the game, but he absolutely played outstanding. And at this point, I don't want to hear the Jordan Love is overrated and all this other dumb crap. Like, we even got Packer fans acting like the opposite of Jordan Love. I don't know what it is. I think it might have been some fans are still loyal to Aaron Rodgers. That time has gone and past now. I also want to say what I think it is, but I ain't gonna say it on here. But Jordan Love played absolutely amazing. I think he threw for like 240 something yards yesterday, 4 touchdowns, tying his career high. Of course, no picks. I don't even think he was close to throwing one. I don't even think he was even touched in yesterday's game, because there's been this thing that the O-line has been, they have been banged up and injured, but yesterday the O-line did their job when it comes to the passing game, even to a point to the running game as well, because I think Josh Jacobs ran for 88 yards yesterday, so can't be completely too disappointed with the passing, the run game blocking. But Jordan Love was absolutely outstanding yesterday. I don't know why you got idiots like Rex Ryan and these other people talking about he's a terrible quarterback. Yeah, whatever. But you guys sit up. I'm not even gonna go like that this morning. I ain't gonna do it. I almost want to do it, but I ain't gonna do it this morning. Act like that. Because I see certain people getting shine and all this other stuff and getting overpraised. They haven't even did anything in the league yet. But anyways, that's all I gotta say about that. The receiver core, Christian Watson, since coming back from the ACL injury, he's been outstanding. Wicks, he caught 2 touchdowns yesterday, and that game-sealing pass on the fourth quarter on that 4 for 2. Outstanding. But you know what? I'm gonna have to admit, LaFleur, he was aggressive yesterday. He was aggressive. Some play calling I did not like. It was a 3rd and 2. It might have been a 3rd and 2 before that touchdown to Wicks. It might have been a 4th and 2. I was just like, just run the ball. I kind of said the same thing late in the game. I was trying to run the clock. I was just like, run the ball no matter what. Because if you run the ball, they got to use that last time out anyway. But they got the job done. I had to give it up to Matt LaFleur. He actually did a decent job of coaching yesterday. As much as I've been on his ass and others. Now for the defense. I mentioned defense. They gonna need another corner soon. I mentioned how the defense sometimes be letting these wide receivers go. Usually the focal point of wide receiver core for Detroit has been Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he went out with a sprained ankle early in the game. Other side, dang it. But as for the defense, like I said, they put Jared Goff, aka Ryan Gosling, in check for most of the game, but then he led off with Jameson Williams towards the end of the game. Michael Parsons was a beast. There was one sack that he had. He just absolutely just demolished the lineman. I don't even think the lineman had a chance. I think he has 2.5 sacks yesterday. I think he has 12.5 sacks for the year. I think he's 5th in sacks this year. No one's catching Myles Garrett, who I think is at 18 now. But thank you, Jerry, once again. And all these people talk about having Michael Parsons was a waste of money. They don't know what they're talking about. I didn't get that. Michael Parsons is a waste of money. How can somebody be a waste of money when they get at least 2 sacks per game? I think he's the only person in NFL history right now that has multiple double sacks in his first 5 seasons. I don't know how that's a waste of money. People just be saying stuff just to be saying stuff. But like I said, defense needs to straighten up just a little bit more. They played that perfect game against the Vikings, and then 2 weeks before that, playing an outstanding game against the Eagles in an L. And then against the Giants and Lions, it's just like faltered a little bit. But they did what they had to do yesterday. I wish Detroit's offense, the Lions' offense, is too potent at times to stop. So I do gotta get a Lions for that. Devontae Wyatt, that's a serious loss. I heard torn ligaments, ankle, broken ankle. I don't know what exactly was the true report on that, but that's going to be a big loss. And they were talking about, Trucker Crab's going to cost you. Losing him is going to cost you. I'm like, you guys realize that yesterday there was no Jaden Reed, there was no Matthew Golden on offense. He was missing 2 wide receivers yesterday. When the Packers did win the Super Bowl, last time they won the Super Bowl, they lost Jermichael Finley for the rest of the year. They lost Ryan Grant for the rest of the year. They also lost Nick Barnett, linebacker, for the rest of the year. We had at least, off the top of my head right now, 4 pieces on offense and defense that did not play. 5, if you want to count Nate Hobbs. But at least 4. No Quay Walker, no Lucas Van Ness yesterday on the defense. And there was no Jaden Reed and no Matthew Golden. Relax, people. But anyways, we got the victory. Don't matter. I think some people are, I don't know, I feel like since Aaron Rodgers left, maybe it's just because the Packers during Aaron, even going back to Brett Favre at a point, but during Aaron Rodgers' at least era, the NFC North was ruled by the Packers. The Lions absolutely sucked. Bears absolutely sucked, and the Vikings at times had their moments. Actually, I said the Lions had their times at moments. Each team had their times, moments, but they were just not good enough to beat the Packers or have a substantial current recurring NFC North titles every time, division titles. But it seems like now that the Packers are fully formed and rolls up again after the end of the Aaron Rodgers era, even though Aaron Rodgers went to the New York Jets, they were right back to the playoffs. It just seems like, people they always find a way to hate, But I get it. If you're a Lions fan, Bears fan, Vikings fan, you've been tormented for your whole, it depends on what year you was born. But if you're a younger Bears, Lions, Vikings fan, you've been tormented. Shoot, even if you're an older one, you've still been tormented by the success of the Packers, because they're the most successful team out of the NFC North. Like it or love it or hate it. But keep crying, you haters. And I do have to admit that timeout, yeah, there's some shadiness going on with that timeout. But I ain't gonna forget that Christian Watson had a chance to, I wouldn't say seal the deal, but there was a pass that he tried to catch with one hand. The reason why he caught it with one hand, because on the way up, I think even before the way up, he was getting grabbed. But a Lions DB, but no pass interference was called. And he admitted, we missed the pass interference call. And then when the Lions get the ball back, illegal use of hands, even though the tight end wasn't even really the focal point of the play. But regardless, Packers still got to stop on that drive, because that actually, if it wasn't for that illegal hands penalty, there was a sack. I forgot who sacked Jared Goff, but that would have been a sack, and that would have caused the Lions to punt the ball, which would have ended the game early. It also would have ended the Devontae Wyatt injury too, if it wasn't for that stupid ass penalty. But anyways, Packers got the dub, 31-24, 8-3-1. Lions, they fighting for their lives now, because they not even, before yesterday's game, they weren't even in the playoff hunt. They was outside looking in. But anyways, go Eagles. I hope y'all beat the Bears today. Goodbye.